me neither. I will say that.
But I know that he's really well known, and like this band he has put together has like 3 vocalists in it, maybe 4. So it's like this. It's almost like an orchestra, and they go back and revisit, Scorpions material and UFO, and I can imagine the crowd that's going to be there. It's going to be a lot of guys who grew up with them in the 70s, right. And a lot of really great guitar playing, and basically it's not necessarily metal, but it's heavy rock,
right.
Like old school heavy rock.
Yeah, no doubt. By the way, if I didn't mention it, Arturo Sandoval is at the Folly Theater. My wife will kill me if I didn't mention that. That's Saturday night.
Which has been so nicely renovated, and they need some help. I think I got an email that there was something else going on there, some other...
Yeah, they really are. My wife's on the board of the Folly, and they've worked hard to make it a more... The theater itself is fantastic,
right.
But they just fixed the bar area and things like that.
Oh, it's great.
Very appealing place to go see a show now. The Tallest Man on Earth is at Liberty Hall on April 28th in Lawrence, and except he's not the tallest man on Earth.
Yeah, I guess it's a joke because he's only
right.
like 5'7", and he
right.
weighs like 100 pounds. So he's a kind of a slight guy, but he creates this aura, and I think he's pretty sure. Well, it's called an evening with. So he's been touring with a band. Couldn't verify whether he was going to be solo or with a band, but either way, his music is very a lot of soundscaping, and the lyrics are maybe sort of abstract. Like he gets compared to Dylan lyrically, and I don't think it's fair to ever compare anyone to him. But
right.
In this case, it's fair enough, But it's kind of it's very visual and moody, and it's a listening experience.
Do you? You just mentioned that a lot of people compare this to this. Do people tend to try to do that too much? Do you think with artists, or is it just a way to give people a better picture of what an artist might be?
I think a couple of music media, they will feature that in a review. Just say recommend it if you like, and I think that's a good gauge.
Right.
It doesn't mean they were mimicking them or they sound like whoever. It's like if you like this kind of music, you'll like this guy or this band,
right.
And I think that's useful. The other thing is it's hard not to, because music is so old now, pop
right.
music. Like when bands ask a band, well, who do you think you sound like? Like, oh, we don't sound like anybody. I'm like, oh yeah, you do. You sound like a lot of people. Like,
right.
You can't.
Being completely unique is very, for instance, I would say that it's so hard to be really unique, and just one band that pops into my head right off the bat is Vampire Weekend, which obviously has some influences, but that's a pretty unique sound that they do. But you can't.
See, I always to them they sound like they swallowed Graceland and are throwing it up. Like, I mean, they're good,
yeah,
but yeah,
I get that.
They're definitely. But yeah,
to that point, see, because you immediately can come up with something that you think, and they sound very unique to me, but
it's them. That's like,
right.
I think that's a good indication that you're doing something different. Is when a song comes on, you know who it is right away. They don't get lost or compared to somebody else. So, yeah, I can see that. Making Movies, the band we're talking about, they're definitely. Although Enrique was playing me their new album, which comes out in a few weeks, and it was produced by Steve Berlin of Los Lobos. But
right.
I told him, if I didn't know this was you, I would have thought this is a Los Lobos song. He goes, well,
right.
that's fine. We're happy with that.
We're okay with that.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I think it helps. I think it's kind of unavoidable too that you're going to listen. Like, there's this gal, 17-year-old Billie Eilish, Eilish, E-I-E. She's 17. She is. Look her up. She's like the next huge thing. She was going to be at the Midland in June. Tickets sold so fast they moved it to the Independence Center. They could probably move it to Sprint Center now. She just released her first full length. She'd put out a bunch of singles, but she's known. You read about her and it's like, oh, nobody sounds like this and yada yada yada. And then I listen to her and I'm like, well, no, I can think of 3 or 4 people she sounds like, but she has distinguished herself from others. Just
right.
The way, the production, the little things she does within a song, her voice, and knowing that she's 17 and the things she's singing about, the subject,
Right.
singing about like suicide and self-esteem and really appealing to teenage girls. That's who
Right.
her major following is. So, yeah, there are ways to be unique, but I don't think
There's
anybody...
always an influence.
Right, for sure. She's been influenced by like Regina Spektor, someone who comes to mind. Even Tori Amos, very emotional lyrics, but she's also very twee. She's got a little girl voice, and
Right.
I think it's that she's just, she seems naive, but she's singing about deep,
Not naive thing.
right? Yeah,
Right.
so it's compelling that she's someone who gets that that labeled with like, well, we haven't seen this before, but it's like, well,
maybe sort of.
we've seen some of it, maybe not all of it.
Well, you mentioned that artists don't usually like to be put in a box because then it sounds like they've copied other people. And I think we've talked about this before. The best current example I can think of is the war on drugs, and that guy I've never heard him reference Bob Dylan, and it's so, dude, please. I mean, and in a good way, they're an excellent band. I really enjoyed the band very much. I'm dying to see them sometime, but still, that's a great example of somebody who just, no, I'm not ripping off Bob Dylan. I'm like, well, maybe not ripping him off, but
you've listened to him.
You've heard him.
Right. Yeah, and I guess, if in your head you think you're pulling this out of nowhere,
it's possible.
Yeah, I don't know. Dylan he is seeped into everything.
Right.
And there's been so many, like Steve Orbert when he came out this was like in the late 70s was
right.
the new Dylan, and he wasn't, but it was obvious why he was getting those comparisons, and he kind of resented it. Well, Springsteen too at first, his
right.
first two records were he spun into something else after Born to Run, more just like basic rock, but. Yeah, those first records, the lyrics were very verbose and out there, and it seemed like he was miming Dylan, if not mimicking him.
Right. Well, if you want verbose, read his autobiography, because right. I couldn't make it through it. It's interesting, but it seemed like he was writing a song instead of writing a book, and it was to me it was just overwritten. That's all. I mean, it was interesting, but
right. I guess, my brother was listening to him before Born to Run, so I knew those first two
right.
records before I knew Born to Run, and so I've always been interested in him. He's one of my favorite guys, but I guess I'm not interested enough in him to read the book. Like, I think I know enough about him.
Right.
I think he's one of he's a hero. He's a I think he's.
And I'm a fan.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say
Me
that.
too.
I mean, not like a
I have some friends who are
times,
like
they'll go every time and
bow
20 times
who worship him, and I'm not
right.
at that place. I admire him and I respect him a lot, and I like most of I don't think he's done anything really important for a while.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. I don't really, songwriting is you have to work at it or have something to say, and
right.
maybe he's lost his message. I saw the River tour, and that was I won't say disappointed, because that's like one of my least favorite Springsteen records, which is like blasphemy to some of his fans, because that's
right.
I just think it kind of meanders, and watching him do that record in its entirety, like when it's a double album, so I just got bored until he finished doing that, and then
right.
did some other stuff. But
I had the misfortune of going to one of the only, I guess, bad Bruce Springsteen. The first time I saw him, I've seen him 2 times subsequently, and he was fantastic both of those times. A good friend of mine took me, who was a huge fan, and even he, after the show, said, he said, "What'd you think?" And I'm like, I thought it was good, but not what I've heard. And he goes, "Yeah, I don't know what it was."
Where was that?
It was in Syracuse.
Oh,
it was a long time ago. But I've seen him in the last decade and a couple times, and he's great. Although I find the enormity of the production a little bit much, and there's too many guitarists up there for my liking. But because you can't differentiate. But it's still a great show. That's a complete sidetrack and silliness.
Well, he played this the first time he played the Sprint Center, which was in August of 2008. Tickets said 7:30. He didn't come on until 9, which was really annoying.
Right.
There was no explanation, and the sound wasn't great. It got better.
I think I saw that show. Maybe that's the show I was talking about. Yeah, because it just seemed like the guitarists were all kind of, it was just one big sound of guitar.
Right. And somebody explained to me later that they don't do in-ear monitors, or they didn't back then. So, like, they have two guys doing sound just on the stage monitors. Like, the sound guys do that, and as soon as he walked out, they started playing. They're all going, turn it up, you know. So then the rest of the sound has to overcome that. So it was just loud and murky. And I was standing by the sound guy. I'm like, can you hear how bad this sounds? And it remedied itself a little, so that either I or got used to it. But that was like the first time I saw him where I was like, that was okay, but it was a little disappointing.
Right. And then some people obviously end up being off-put by the political aspects, which I never really care about one way or another. But you know, I can enjoy concerts where the act pretty much almost says nothing. Like one of my favorites, Mark Knopfler. I do like engaging personalities like Raul Malo, of the Mavericks. I don't know if I want somebody to give me a lecture.
Right, and I mean, I guess you have to know going in. Like when Roger Waters came here about a year and a half ago, he was, if you don't know his political stance going in, what's wrong with you? Like
right,
because his political. I mean, The Wall is a pretty political statement, and he got overt about it, and when he was speaking, but also some of the songs he did, and people got up and left because they were offended that he was offending President Trump. Like, what did you expect? It's like when you go to see Ted Nugent, you know what he's going to do.
Right, exactly.
But yeah, I'd rather leave it. Like, I go to shows to escape the world and to indulge in music that I like with people who like the same kind of music. So I'm better off without it. But there are some people who make it pretty clear. Like even when the Dixie Chicks and that 2003 tour, when they came here after they'd been pilloried, you know, they weren't overtly political, but they made some references, and like they came out to "Born in the USA" was their so it was they sort of camouflaged their militancy, I guess, but yeah.
Well, that's such a great example because "Born in the USA" is not a patriotic song in any way, and it was sort of abducted like that
by Reagan.
And I think that made Bruce Springsteen probably a little more political in his concert appearances because he had been co-opted.
Right. But even he doesn't. He preaches in themes like we need to take care of each other and help the underprivileged and without naming names. But it's obvious. Like he was one of those. Was it the Kerry campaign? Like all those. That was it. The Move On. No, was it? Whatever that campaign was.
Right.
A bunch of musicians toured and did campaign concerts.
Right.
And that was about as overt, I think, as he has been. And he was an adamant or an ardent supporter of Obama. You know, he made that clear. Otherwise, I don't really think he gets that political. He's just understood who he is.
Right, exactly. Yeah. By the way, to show how the music world works, I saw the Dixie Chicks in 1998 in Oklahoma City at a country swing dance place where they played before the swing dancing started.
So were they? Because they were like
they were not. They were maybe they weren't. They hadn't broken at all. Clearly, by where they were playing, I was there for the NCAA tournament, and
because before they had Natalie,
they were soon famous. I'll say that.
Right. Well, just because before Natalie Maines was their lead singer, they were like a bluegrass band. They used to play at Winfield. I knew people who saw them when they were just the two sisters or mandolin and fiddle and. But right as that first record came out, they played at the Beaumont Club, the old Beaumont Club once. And I remember the owner telling me, "Hey, you got to get down and see these." And I had seen the record. I hadn't listened to it yet. I thought, this is I was expecting like a girl, the girl band, a boy band. Like it was right around the whole Backstreet Boys. I'm like, I don't think so. And then I put it on my CD player. Like, this is really good. Yeah, I'm sorry I missed it. And then like next time I saw them, they were playing at Arrowhead opening for like George Strait or something.
Right.
And then they were.
Then of course they were killed by politics. But you got to know your audience a little bit too. I mean,
but
they didn't care.
No, they
she
didn't care. Bravo for them. And
Yeah,
they
exactly.
came back. They played here 2 summers ago, I think.